This is AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV SuperFriends. For February 14th, 2025, it's the best sounding podcast in higher ed. This is the AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, episode number 103. That's too many. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yeah, we love you.
I'm all hopped up on all sorts of shit. Larry, do you need to leave right now? Make a stop on the way home to that
gas
impulse
station
buy aisle at the gas station convenience store? They've got
Candy
them right
bar.
out front.
Those $8 roses you can get on the checkout there.
One rose, $20.
Yes.
So. Broadcasting live from coast to coast and everywhere in between, transmitting across time zones faster than crummy hotel Wi-Fi, from the back of the rack to the front of the house, pushing buttons, flipping switches, and turning knobs. I'm Chris Dechter. It's time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure.
Well, that was new.
You'll get that one right. Yeah, that's good.
First one.
Yeah, I mean.
But first, let's say hello to today's panel of august AV super friends. So I'm joined by a dynamic research planner from Kansas City, Jamie Reinhardt.
I don't. Sure.
Oh, well, we're also joined by a legacy factors officer from Corvallis, Oregon, Marc Kolowazinski.
We see that you're not running as fast as you once did. What do you think?
Let me research that. Hold on.
Yeah.
Also joined by an investor integration analyst from Greensboro, North Carolina. Say hello to Larry Darling.
So I'm figuring out why investors can't integrate correctly. Kind of a lost skill.
I just have money I need to spend on getting this done.
Yeah.
I'll plan on it.
And also joined by our fearless vice president for senior interaction from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Mr. Justin Rexing.
I don't only work with senior citizens, but I also work with middle-aged folks, babies. So I think this title's a little
But
discriminatory.
not teenagers.
Not teenagers.
The picture in
But-
my mind as you just said that, I just see Justin.
Yeah,
You got that
we call
walker.
that
Let's
the
get you
old
across the
folks
street.
home.
It's like a Walmart greeter, right?
Yeah. Assistant manager of
Yes.
a retirement home. So
I think we need to talk with the show management about this discriminatory title. I don't.
what if we
Like
just
it.
remove vice president from your title? Would that make you feel better?
You'll be
Senior?
president of senior?
It'd make me feel better.
All right.
Would it make you feel younger? That's the
I was
question.
Justin. Let's change. We'll try
try
it again.
it.
Okay.
Can we try?
So say hello to the night shift manager for senior interaction from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Mr. Justin Rexing.
Boy, those seniors at night are really wild. I don't know. I don't have
It's
anything for that
after
either.
5:30.
Oh, man.
I just make this
4:30.
stuff up on the fly, and I just whatever comes to my head. I just
All right.
You're not alone, sir.
It gets me in trouble.
Well, on today's
Sometimes.
show, we're going to discuss cloud-hosted monitoring systems that do everything. And Mark's going to provide us with an update on his weird IT hoteling project thing.
Yes.
But first, some housekeeping. So if you're listening to this as a recorded MP3, we do stream live on Fridays at about 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific. You do the math for your other time zones. You can join us on Twitter Live, LinkedIn, YouTube, and I think that's it. Yes. Larry will throw the links to other streaming or other platforms, but they don't support streaming, so you have to go to Twitter, LinkedIn, or YouTube. So if you can't join us live, we still want you to connect with us on the socials. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Blue Sky. Just go to bluesky.com. Oh, it's not that.
It's not that.
Good luck finding Blue Sky, because I have to do it every time I go there for my account. I have to find it. Fix it.
And bookmarks.
Bookmark it. We got our MySpace page is updated. Make sure you follow us over
I
there,
don't
too.
bookmark anything. I search for stuff, and it bothers me to no end. So please don't forget to spread the word. Share this podcast with your friends, colleagues, enemies, perfect strangers, and anyone else who might enjoy it. If you could tackle somebody in line at the grocery store, tickle them until they drop their phone, and then
Tell
subscribe
the
to
other
this and have
person
them
that you are
download a
like
bunch of
when
episodes.
you're at your local pharmacy of choice getting your emergency card /rose /chocolate /whatever gift you're getting on your way home. Tell them.
Because it is Valentine's Day, Larry. So
Tell them. So, when I drove here, I listened to this weird show. I'm not sure if you ever heard of it. AV SuperFriends.
Our weird show.
sorry, honey, I forgot to buy you anything again this year because I was so distracted by this awesome podcast I was listening
Yeah, let her know. Yeah. Send her a link in the card.
to. Or him, Mark. It's 2025.
Sorry.
And when you have nothing
talking to
else to
Larry.
do for the rest of the evening, you can catch up on our catalog.
Yeah, and since at that point you will have no other plans for the evening, go back and listen to the back catalog.
Let's see if we can dig this hole just a little bit deeper.
All
Well,
right.
you might have plans. They're just by yourself, and then there's that.
Then definitely. We will
Those are
spend
weird
the
plans,
evening
Justin,
with you.
but thanks for sharing. So, We are always eager to hear from you, unless you have plans only by yourself. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover, please send us an email or comment on social media. Hit us up, mailbag at SuperFriends or Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Blue Sky, etc. Finally, when you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., please go in, rate, and review us. That does bump us up in the algos, and we get in front of more people, and then more people listen to the show. So there you go.
That's what they tell us.
So they tell us. It's probably it's a big lie. I don't know. But thanks everyone for your support. We can't do this. We couldn't do this show without you. And now that you've waited for it all week, and to hear Justin sing along with it, it's time for the news.
Yeah.
So excited. Today's article comes from LinkedIn, but just because it's a post on LinkedIn.
Does it really come from there? I think like
No, it comes from this dude.
It was posted on
Tech.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
From
It's a post on
Tech.
LinkedIn, but it's from, well, where's it actually from?
On EdTech.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My mistake. I retract everything I said in the last 30 seconds. This post has nothing to do, or this news story has nothing to do with LinkedIn. It comes from the On EdTech blog by Phil Hill.
Right.
So,
Featured on LinkedIn.
We just saw
I
it
saw it on LinkedIn.
on LinkedIn.
Sure, yes.
Dang it, I got to fix stuff. Anyway, it's about LMSs, and this is where Mark would be sharing a graphic.
He would normally, and I will, once I figure out how to do it.
But you're a Mac user, and so there's that.
Yeah, something about all that, but
All
we'll
this
figure it
pre-show
out.
work about sharing graphics.
Pow! Here it is.
Nope.
Bring it to the stage. There it is.
It's so zoomed out. Weird.
That looks
Is it?
like a
Zoomed in over here.
Wiggle
looks
your
like a ran
browser.
over octopus
Use your
or something.
mouse.
What is?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Zoom in.
so this is so I saw this and the visual caught my eye, but it's a timeline of the various learning management systems out there and how they have changed over time from the earliest individual ones that were all started at different university like what do you call it, conglomerates or systems or whatever.
I'm assuming this is like adoption or something along that line.
I don't.
yeah,
This
I think
looks
it's
like a. I don't know. This looks like a bar graph I drew in kindergarten. Like, can you? Like, what is it? Yeah. Like,
Yes.
So the key on the graphic, it says the width of each band represents the percentage of institutions using a particular LMS as its primary system at a given point in time. So what you can see or not see on this tiny graphic that Mark is sharing is the how it has changed over time. It's just kind of an interesting thing. So at the top is Canvas, and you can see that one blew up starting in whenever that was.
Okay,
Was that
2009.
2009, 2010 was where it really just, or 11 or 12, it really took off. I first started using Blackboard and Moodle and WebCT way back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And you can see those on the left side kind of blob their way into general, I don't know, obscurity by now.
Yeah. There's that open LMS though. I'm curious about what's going on there. Because it's just beneath Moodle. And it's kind of a new kid on the block, so to speak.
Moodle just squeezed that one out there.
Yeah, just a little bit, and then you get the Sakai, which is kind of a thin little band above that. And there's that bright space, which seems like it's just been consistent down there at the bottom. And then other. And you all know who you are, all you others. Looking at you, MS
actually, I
Teams.
don't.
In
know
Google
others.
Classroom.
Google Classroom. Really?
I've used that one. I've used Learning 365. I've used
Jenzabar.
Talent LMS.
Yep.
Like all of those others. And the thing is, like, this is only looking at the higher ed institutions. The corporate world's really starting to take off with LMSs.
Yeah.
So,
But they don't call them LMS. They call them.
They sometimes do.
They still
Avixa-
call them
Avixa
learning
does.
management systems.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
But
Well, Avixa's is terrible across the board. Sorry, Avixa.
But what was the one that was people have been moving to recently? Like there was I'm thinking of Kaltura versus another. Never mind. Canvas is still I think the big.
You're thinking of content.
Yeah, I'm thinking of content management. Never mind. So yeah, in the learning management side, it looks like Canvas is like just swallowing everything up here.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I think Canvas is ripe for someone else to come out of nowhere and eat their lunch. So
Who's going to be, or is somebody just going to buy Canvas whole
and then
cloth?
shut it down.
Blackboard. Blackboard will buy them.
Blackboard just buys Canvas and just snake eating its tail.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm wondering what we don't have here are huge corporations. You know, you don't have your Amazons, Microsofts, whatever, owning this stuff because they own the general web
Well,
and they're
I don't see
hosting all of
Google
them.
Microsoft has
Classroom or anything
several.
else on here.
I think the Google Classroom
It's-
is in that other.
Yeah, it's listed in the other Jamie down there.
but-
So it says Populi, Jenzabar, MS Teams, Google Classroom, Loud Cloud, Iula, It's Learning, NEO.
I really thought
Neo.
they had a higher percentage. So some
I
of
think if this was
is-
K-12, I think it would look different. I think this would be a different graph.
No, okay.
Probably so. Google
right.
will be number one.
Maybe.
Canvas is still really used in the K through 12.
I'd like to see that.
In
My
this room,
son
like
uses Canvas at both of his schools he's been at.
in our room here where we are, we're Canvas where we are. Are you all Canvas or are you guys something else?
I have
Blackboard.
several on campus,
Blackboard?
but Canvas is the main one.
We've always
Yeah,
been Blackboard, so
Canvas is the primary. We do have some Moodle and some Google, but mostly Canvas.
Okay. All your LTI integrations and all that stuff. Get it all in there. Open them all up. Okay. Well, cool. So is it either it's going to continue to grow or it's going to all of a sudden collapse because something else is going to come in and disrupt it?
Well, the interesting thing here is there are 3 or 4 of these big ones that have moved around at different times. So I, to your point, I'd be curious to see 5 years from now, what does that Canvas one keep growing, or does it start to retract and then something else comes up? So
Wow. Our investment advice here. Okay.
out of nowhere, D2L comes up and eats everyone's lunch. So
Yeah. You're not wrong,
Well,
Joe.
It'll be interesting to see where this goes here forward with the advent of like O365 taking over most of our institutions.
Yeah.
Is Microsoft, one, are they going to buy somebody? 2, can they actually develop this LMS that they think they have?
or are they?
Well, they already
interested?
have. They have Learning 365. It's not listed
Yeah,
here
but
because it's
it's-
more corporate, but it's
It's in your teams already. Go
Yeah.
ahead and explore it.
So that'll be interesting as we start to transition in that way. I don't know.
Right. But yeah, I'm curious to see kind of as we see that Microsoftification of a lot of things. Will they start to become more apparent? Will some leadership say, "Well, we're already investing in this. Let's just get rid of this other thing," and then everything breaks, and we live through that turmoil for whatever years it is.
I think you'll have decisions made by leadership that just blast this chart out of the water, like your whole Teams thing, and let's just sign up for Teams because Microsoft's already here. Let's just some executive somewhere is going to
my
come into your
brother-in-law works for
university
him.
because their brother-in-law works for him. It's like, hey, we gotta line the pockets of my brother.
Hey, that check cleared. So tomorrow we're all learning 365, suckers.
I'm telling you, as more power is grabbed by the higher ups and they just make decisions with their magic wand, it's going to blow this graph.
I will say, whichever one of these gets the AI integration right will be the winner.
Maybe.
I'm going to just rebrand one of these AI LMS.
But Mark, that's if people listen to the people actually using this stuff. How many times does that happen on a campus?
True.
I'm just saying, like the court, like we can all reason. We all work at universities. We all know how decisions are made. They're made without logic most of the time.
Just
You
not
are
my
laughing
control
because you know
center.
it's true.
I love it.
You know it's true.
All right. Well, we know where this is going. So.
views
girl, you
expressed
know it's
by
true.
WKU.
Well, I'm just saying that the barrier for this is how hard is it? For us, how hard is it to just go to Canvas from Blackboard? Like that's a lot of time on us. So there's
It
not
was
a lot
not
of motivation.
a pleasurable time when it
Right.
happened here.
Exactly.
How many of us have been at a university when they transitioned? It's a lot of work.
We transitioned to a new version of Blackboard. And I remember that shit. I was like, oh my god, I'm glad I didn't have to deal with that. Because they're
Yeah, it was an
Whatever.
adjacent thing within our department cousins,
Yeah.
but it was
correct.
It was a lot. People get very attached, and everything's
Mm-hmm.
in there. Their curriculums for years and years are in there, so it's a big lift. I think as
Well,
media,
but every single
and-
one of them
and-
says we can convert your stuff, no problem.
sure,
Exactly.
yeah, but as
And there is problems. There's problems to that. I'm probably,
but as these curriculums and these syllabus become more media rich, does it become even harder to lift and shift now? Like all the links, everything falls apart and breaks. And so
Yeah.
as
It's
these
all
ecosystems
interconnected.
build, like you're almost kind of going to be stuck. And so
I
like
remember
that's if
when
someone
Butler-
bought everybody. We're all QSYS. Everything on campus is QSYS, and then somebody comes in tomorrow. We're Crestron. That's going to put a lot of hurt and shock and everything on those people supporting
that
that
around.
stuff. Whatever, you know what I mean. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I remember when Butler went from Blackboard to Moodle, the prime directive
they went
that
that
the
way?
Moodle group was given, make it look exactly like Blackboard to try to ease that.
Exactly. That's the
It's the end user experience that really,
Yeah.
that's what gets negatively impacted. Sometimes it's not
Correct.
even the data transfer, but what used to be under files is now under documents or
I used to click here, now I click there.
resources. Yeah. Oh, it's on the right now instead of on the left. It's hidden under a
that
carrot
matters.
or a hamburger
Those things
menu.
matter.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Where's
we
my
hear
bread?
it all the
imagine
time.
if-
Go to the breadcrumbs.
Just imagine if you got in your car and your brake and gas were flawed because somebody upgraded your car. You're like, shit, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a bad experience. It's not wrong. It's just different, and it takes a lot of, resources.
No, it's
to
wrong,
change.
Justin. I'm putting my foot down.
no,
It's just
it's good.
house
It
space.
looks like it's growing. People have their stuff in there. They're using it as a common repository.
Why would
for all the
someone
kitchen company.
change to Canvas from Blackboard? Because it's cheaper, or what? More feature sets?
There's different integrations. There's a lot of different
Yeah.
things going on there. So it's a matter of kind of what you need as your institution and what you're going to sign up for and how you envision that ecosystem.
Justin, a lot of times these things come down, or the discussions initially start because one of the companies that you're currently with changes their licensing structure dramatically.
price.
And they say, oh, you're good for the next 3 years, but after that, it's now 5 times the cost. And you're like, well, thanks. And off you go. So,
that's what
Expansion,
does it.
contraction.
Man, cloud contracts.
yeah.
Weird.
Well, let's
Weird.
take a quick
We
break.
should discuss that at some point.
You want to
Oh,
discuss that?
maybe
Let's discuss
today?
that. We'll wait after
Yeah,
the break,
let's,
though.
let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about that exact thing because Jamie's got a presentation on it. So
Here we go.
Here we go.
hold on to your butts.
All right.
Do you find yourself trying to connect to all your audio devices, only to find out they speak different languages? Introducing the Audio Bridge widget by Independent Amalgamated, the ultimate all-in-one adapter that makes compatibility issues a thing of the past. Picture this. You've got a Dante microphone array, balanced analog inputs on your DSP, and embedded PCM audio via USB to a laptop. What's a savvy technician to do? With the Audio Bridge widget by Independent Amalgamated, you can bridge the gap between any audio protocol, bit rate, source, or destination. It's like the United Nations of audio adapters. And guess what? For a limited time, we're throwing in every adapter you could ever need. That's right, every single one. Need to convert from RCA to SCART? No problem. Want to go from USB to XLR? Unbalanced to balanced and back again? Easy peasy. The possibilities are endless. But wait, there's more. Order now and we'll even throw in a lifetime supply of tangled cables. Say goodbye to that old frustrating knot of cords forever with a brand new mass of twisted, intertwined, and ratty cables. Don't let compatibility issues ruin your groove. Get your hands on the Audio Bridge widget today and let the music play on.
Got all new ratty cables, not old ratty cables.
That one still makes me giggle every single time.
All right. Well,
Anyway,
so for our first topic today, I wanted to discuss this. What do we call it? There's a spate of these
the proliferation.
the proliferation of cloud-hosted. We can monitor everything, do all your stuff, and then the ever-popular single pane of glass to see all your things at this low monthly cost, and everyone's got a solution for it, and it's a pain
Only
in
if
the
you
butt.
buy our shit, though.
No,
Well,
that's
No,
the
some of
Justin.
them doesn't
let's.
matter.
Yeah,
Some of
I want to differentiate this because I think
Some of them.
we've talked in previous episodes about like every manufacturer has their thing that lets you see all of their stuff. This is not necessarily that. I'm talking about the larger cloud, the bigger aggregation toolkit, so to speak. Is that fair?
Well, some of those are in there, though. I mean,
Okay. I mean, we
it's
can
a
rattle
mixed
them all
bag of
off.
nuts.
It is definitely a mixed bag of nuts, but this, you're starting to see people starting to talk about this a little more. Some articles coming out like, oh, there's
I think we
so
all
much.
like the concept
Yeah.
that, I can open up a dashboard. I can see real-time status of all my stuff. I can get access to all my advanced troubleshooting pages or my internal diagnostic pages or whatever. It has self-healing. It has AI. It has all this stuff. This is great. Or
Sure does.
does it really work? Is it allowed on my network? Do I need some sort of mystery black box somewhere talking to all these things? What devices can it see versus it can't see? What devices, Justin, to your point, does it support? And they'll say, we support every device out there, but maybe it's simply doing an SNMTP trap of,
Yep.
I can see a thing,
It's
and
on.
that's it. So
So, how many have have explored this with the different manufacturers and pieces out there? By show of hands here in this room, have you had these conversations? Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Several
good.
times.
Right. And so,
Jamie's got one on the phone on hold right now.
probably
He said-
does. They're probably
he said,
wanting to talk to you.
Can I put you on hold real quick? And that was 20 minutes.
And there's
Usually
other-
within 3 questions, you can get yourself out of it. But
Yeah, it's easy to get out of there. But then there may be certain organizations that are heavily invested in a Tron of sort that maybe want to look to a cloud-hosted flavor of this or whatever it may be. And you're going to have these similar conversations, right? And so they all, across the board, depending on what manufacturer, what flavor, will tell you, you just do this. You just get our service and it just does all this stuff for you, right? And wouldn't it be so lovely if it was just that? And
Sounds
you could
easy.
just turn. It sounds so easy, right? And that when you start to dig in, how do they go about doing that? How do they get your data to their AWS instance? And do they
Put it all
understand?
in the ISP. That makes it easy.
Right, or possibly. And so having those types of conversations. And so it is
I
a
also
conversation that I find myself in almost every other week with one of these manufacturers at this point.
And I think it's important, but it maybe not on this show to dive into this, but why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Because there's
That's a
a
good
lot
question.
of different reasons
Why
that
aren't
people monitor equipment. There's a long list, but we've talked about it on the show before. But if you're doing red light, green light stuff or whatever, that's not going to be helpful. So have a plan.
Well, I
have
think
a plan and understand what you're after, so you pick the right thing, right?
I think it means different things to different organizations.
Exactly.
And I've phrased this in the past using kind of that Gartner kind of organizational maturity from reactive to transformational. Depending on where you are in there, you may want different things from this kind of product. If you're just like boots on the ground, respond, you're just kind of point to point, whatever, you may not see much value in this at all if you're just purely reactionary. Whereas you're going to be a completely merged environment. Everything is persistently connected to not only your network, but the larger. It is an Internet of Things, and you need to start wrangling all that. This starts to be a different conversation, right? And that somewhere in between, you're either nothing's online to everything you have is online, and that, but you need to understand security. You need to understand data flow. You need to understand all these pieces. And then when you start getting into that minutia with a lot of the people who are trying to sell you these products, I find the conversation quickly either like bogs down or like goes sideways.
Yeah, it evaporates quickly.
Yep. Right. It's either just install this and go put it on your network and just here, or they ship you a Trojan box. Here's this nondescript black mystery box. Just go ahead and run it on your network. Oh. Right. And that should make you feel queasy immediately when that happens. If you're finding yourself in these conversations,
it's not my network. I'm not supporting it, so it should be fine. It's just
fair enough. You can do that where you are. Do not do that here.
Yeah. No.
Just plug it up and see what happens.
So, as you have these conversations, and to me, like as we tease it out, I often find the manufacturers also they're trying to get their arms around like, well, how do you value this? What does it mean to you? And so we start getting into those level of conversations. And I'll say right away, red light, green light, on off status. I'm not willing to pay anything for that.
No,
nothing at all. Like that has zero value of additive cost for me. What about you guys?
Well, I think to
Same.
clarify your last statement there, and probably I'm going to interpret what Jamie says by saying no, is that service, let me rephrase, that capability has value, but it's not a value that it's going to cost above and beyond what I can already do right now for free.
For free, exactly. Yes, you're 100% correct. I'm not going to pay more to do something I can do right now for nothing.
To monitor the up or down status of a device, it does me very little good. And most of the time, even when we first tried to implement this years ago, what had happened to us was great. Oh, it went red. We're going to go report. Oh,
it was a blip.
The
it was just
disconnect was actually somewhere else.
Right. And so you get a lot of false reaction, right? And so now you're spending resources, people running around. It's for what?
And at the end of the day, it didn't fix anything. It didn't help us.
Okay.
All it did was alert us that maybe something happened. And yeah, so I'm with you. Is it important? To Chris's point, yes. Am I going to pay for it? No.
Well, and let me give a real world example of that. So it was on, I think it was Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. We got a report from a room that, hey, this thing isn't working again. Okay. First thing we do, look at it. It's online. It's there. And then, but to your point, Jamie, that doesn't really, okay, it's there. That doesn't really say anything. Finally, get more detail, log into the interface for it. Oh, it's there, but you don't have a device plugged in. There's no sync coming into that. So that online, offline status actually wouldn't tell us anything. It says you're green. There's still an issue in the space, but the issue is on the other side of it. And that's the sort of detail that you can't pull for most of these services. It's like, I see a device. I got a ping back. Great. But you can't tell me anything about what that device is doing. Is there, so it
It's
gets
that
us very,
second
very
and
little.
third level of what your devices are doing. For instance, I run a lot of NDI cameras, right? Well, the actual video stream is a multicast stream that's not related to the on and off of the camera. I can reach the camera, I can get it all going, but it doesn't mean the multicast is working. It means
Same
nothing.
thing with ceiling microphones. Same thing.
Ceiling
they'll-
microphones.
They'll stop their Dante streams, but the thing is still online. So
It's still there.
So it's a connection.
And so you need that second level of intelligence in order to dive deep. And a lot of these things are like, well, you can write that in. Well, now I have to hire 3, 4, 5 programmers and spend a considerable amount of time to write that in because your box didn't just do it.
Right. Okay. So you're wanting something additional outside of the on-off and the online offline. And I know, yes, we can write some automation to cycle things and blah. Like, I get that. We can do that. But that's not something we find as like, yeah, I want to pay for that. So we wanted that kind of feature set there. So what kind of things are of value with cloud? We're just going to say cloud service and managed service kind of stuff. Where does it become?
Inventory for me, Mark?
Okay, that's not a wrong answer. So, but not all of them actually do that.
Right, and nor is that of any value. So the manufacturers out there, if you talk about asset management through your cloud service, I don't care.
Yeah, we do that
depends on
through
the
another
person.
software. I don't need it in my
And
asset.
I think we need to frame some of this too, right?
It
This is
depends.
within a higher ed institution that
Yeah.
we support. I think if I was Justin, if I was running
Justin.
an integration service where I had service tickets that I was running, and some of these features may have completely different uses for me. In my use, in my current role as the manager of AV at a higher ed institution, some of these things inventory, I already have that.
I think that's a huge
Some
point
people might not,
because
though.
we are so far outside of the standard user. I mean, we were talking about how many pieces of equipment we each manage.
4.
Chris is 4, which is a little low, surprising, but it's
a little
It's
low,
Wyoming. It's
And I'm
still a
not sure where
university.
one of them is.
It says I have it. I don't know where it's at.
It reported
it's
green.
online.
You're good.
But it is
online,
online.
so
It is green.
Yeah.
But
In the
they
dashboard.
might
Look right there. It's green.
they might be developing these with an end user of like a tech manager at a law firm or something like that. That I can see these products having value.
Or a managed service provider, like when we were talking with Colin a few weeks ago. Somebody completely outside who's going to be like that second tier. I'm helping people. I need to keep an eye on things from multiple remote locations all over the country, all over the world. So
yeah.
And kind of going back to it's based on organizational construct and what you want out of this, right? So it's going to look different ways to the glass that you're viewing this piece at. And I think as a small organization that is just kind of maybe just traditionally been boots on the ground, reactive style, level 1, or even like an emerging level 2, developing, right? They're probably not going to see a lot of immediate value out of this, right? They may not even have their things on the actual network to begin with, or have enough of them to see a value or have an impact on this, right? Once we get into kind of the integrated level 3 and optimized level 4, do we start to be able to make more data-driven decisions, right? And I think on-off is one thing, but I think we start to want that with some other data to be able to make a better and more informed decision, right? And so it's now what are we doing? Are we saying, okay, things are broken, there's integrations to other systems, whether it be our ticketing, our management service, things like that, where all that piece. So now it starts to ask the question, well, how many things are you online? How many things do you want to know about? What level of API and data do we want to have? And once we come to that conversation where it's like, well, I want all this data, now we're going to have a security conversation.
yeah.
That's where we're going to get into the weeds about what data, what VLANs, what ports.
I want to know
what is the
name of
velocity,
person
what
who
is their
logged into that.
direction of this data, and who's aggregating, who's owning it after it hits the cloud, where does it go, what's being scraped out of it, and what potential vulnerabilities am I going to have because of this. And that's where I find the conversation just stops immediately with every manufacturer. They're like, well, what do you mean? And I say, what the hell do you mean? What do you mean? Like, what?
Yeah.
When I ask that and they can't speak to it, they say, well, you need to talk to an engineer. No, I shouldn't have to go speak to any engineer. This should be public knowledge that you're ready to communicate right now. If you're coming to me as an enterprise organization, you better come prepared to have this security conversation right now, not defer to somebody else. And so anytime you're dealing with integrating a cloud solution to my on-prem hardware, we need to talk about how we're going to go about doing that. And I think a lot of manufacturers right now are just willy-nilly throwing it around, showing us really cool snapshots of here's what your screen, your single pane of glass can look like, and blah, blah, blah. And when you ask, it goes sideways, or it's, oh, well, we're going to be able to do that in the future.
That security conversation is a two-way street, though, because if you're talking about buying something that's agnostic, that can talk to multiple manufacturers, and you got a bunch of junk on your campus, you could talk security all you want to those to that management service, but if all your shit's running Telnet, then what are you doing? So there's a lot of, how are you going to manage all the passwords and usernames? Because a lot of your stuff, AV devices, they don't LDAP. It's not going to be automatic. So that's a lot
Some of them
manual
don't support
shit.
DHCP properly.
Right.
So.
Exactly. So it's not just the cloud management part. It's the holistic approach of your AV designs and the security of it. Because I know right now, most of my AV designs, because it's impossible to create a secure AV design with the manufacturers that we're dealing with, they don't provide security updates. So
but that might just mean the industry isn't mature enough to actually support these solutions.
This
I think that's
stuff
an element
has
of
been
it.
done for 20 years by the IT staff. And we can't figure it out as an AV industry because manufacturers aren't developing the products correctly. They're expecting, hey, we developed that product. I know it's running that Android thing. It's not supported anymore by whoever. It's not secure. So throw it away and buy our new shit. That's their answer.
Well, it
it's
is
true.
I mean, I've got a couple of old
Because they're
Android
not going
things.
to
I'm like, I can't use them anymore.
Yeah, they're not going to spend the engineering resources to develop on that old product. So now you have to be prepared to replace shit to get your cloud management secured.
But I'll play devil's advocate to that though.
It is. Though.
Are we
That's true.
asking legacy thought to do new things?
We
Right?
might
Are many of us guilty of deploying systems with a certain architecture that would never be able to operate in more of a full stack AV solution because we're too busy like doing plumbing, spigots, and tubes? Are we not taking the correct OSI approach to how we're actually delivering solutions?
I don't think we have the available tools to do the correct OSI approach.
I think we do. I think there's different pressures that force us to do your monetary pressure
Budgeting
forces you.
models,
Exactly.
There's all kinds of things that dictate that there's a lot of things that I can't do based upon money, which sacrifices
Well,
security.
your leadership doesn't value that correctly yet. It's not there. The value proposition is misaligned. And so, go ahead, Larry.
To play devil's advocate on your devil's advocate.
Oh, I will see your devil's advocate with a demon. Let's go.
Is there
Double devil's
enough
advocate.
value in these monitoring systems for me to jump through the hoops of redesigning my systems in such a way as to...
This is a lot of work. When you take this
is
on,
the
be
only
prepared
work
to
that
work
matters.
your ass off.
This is it.
I don't know. I mean, I would say that
So-
students learning matter
but-
probably.
Yeah, does
but-
it impact students?
Yeah, you
learning?
well,
Whoa,
get
whoa,
out of
whoa,
here,
whoa,
sir.
whoa, whoa.
But I think
This is
we've
neither the
answered that
time
already.
nor the place for that sort of attitude.
This is it. You're like
So-
your statement of this is the work
Okay.
that matters, and we're like, but none of us own this.
Well, right. Well, no. Are none
Like
of you
none of us
looking at,
have one. We don't care.
Are you?
I mean, we
but
do,
are you
but we
looking
don't.
at migrating when we get into the weeds and talk about standards? Are we taking the larger holistic view of how does this move align with my end goal, my big wildly important goal, my WIG over here, to be able to have more of a full stack AV solution? That does it not? Like, I'm the one crazy enough to try to go do Teams rooms and all this stuff because I want to see AI be able to be at the ready in these meeting spaces and be able to start leveraging that.
Yeah, were you proud of that?
I am proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm proud that we are taking spaces and being able to at
He's
that
been to
highest
therapy.
level. Yes, I've been
Now-
months. So it's a matter of like
This is trying. This is
Yes.
attempting. This is I'm looking into. So for the folks listening, it's not that
it's not all.
he didn't
there's
say
not feds,
successful.
no.
He didn't
No,
say
I have-
this is
I
ready.
have-
He
No,
said
in
give it a
Microsoft.
shot.
Frame
The
it.
old college try.
We will frame it correctly that yes, we have them out there, but systems like that do start to give you the glimpse of what it means to have this full data life cycle, right? And so if you're just compartmentalizing everything, you're not going to get into that fully transformational fifth level because you're creating all these islands. And so your systems will never be smart enough. The cloud will never be able to see those things to give you those informed decisions. So if you want to start getting healing and ticketing and automatic response and all that stuff, all of your stuff needs to be at the ready and aligned correctly from a secure standpoint. I don't think a lot of people look at AV systems and engineering in that light. I think they're just doing old school plumbing still. And I think that's a disservice.
Disservice or not, you're not wrong that there is a lot of the kind of old school mentality. It's plumbing, it's spigots and tubes, it's point to point. Yes, there's a big matrix switcher, or yes, I'm running my own island network switch to do the same type of thing. And a lot of it's because even in early days, I mean, I remember network monitoring in 2006 for devices out there. There's old MLCs and things you could just bring up the webpage for. that was great, and we built a little dashboard, and we could watch all our stuff around campus. We had a mix of Axlink devices and network
And it was
devices.
easy, Chris, to your point, it was easy back then because how many devices in a classroom had a network port?
Well, yeah,
Like
there's that too.
One,
you couldn't
two.
see everything. You could see a couple
And
things.
so
but,
one of those things represented a room and things made a lot of sense.
But as
Now
we
it's
got
like,
into more advanced network
Right.
capability,
Yep.
to your point, Mark, the network itself in most of our institutions, and still is the case, was not
Mm-hmm.
mature enough to handle it. We had bad experiences, and so we have deliberately dialed that back to say, well, I'm going to put it back here because I know it's going to work for the students and the faculty who are teaching and learning in these spaces.
Yeah,
And that's-
and
that
it's
has
not that
been our
you're
challenge.
Yeah, you're still delivering that core, right? We need to make sure we see big things on the screens and we hear the whole thing clearly, and it's a fair mission to accomplish.
Well,
But
and I
even-
think
Go ahead, Larry.
go ahead, Jamie. I usually step on you. You can go.
But I think, though, that even those of us who are putting almost everything on an enterprise and who I'm probably really close to be able to implement something like this, but I still have yet to find a product or a person who can convince me that what they can provide to me through a cloud service isn't something we're already dealing with internally. Like now, except for the AI portion, right? Like hey, I noticed there's an issue here. I noticed that this is gone. I can either try to reboot it. Oh, crap, it didn't work. I'm going to submit a ticket so that somebody actually goes and
oh, you're
looks at
rebooting
it.
things automatically while class is going?
No,
If we
it's
have
smart
to.
enough
No,
not to
Justin,
do
the
that.
AI is doing that.
Well,
The
the
AI's doing it
AI is doing
automatically,
it.
Well,
but-
Al's
And
doing
trust
it.
me,
Yeah.
I trained it, so
We
it is really
call
intelligent.
ours Skynet, so it's in charge.
But I'm not there yet, right? And so
Yeah.
You all are
And
breaking
some of that
all
is-
your rules.
don't worry
All
about
your
it.
rules.
Just
Rules
don't
are
worry
made
about
to be
it.
broken, Justin.
If you put no security on anything, it just goes.
Well,
But I
there's
do
reason
have-
like that.
But I do have, like this internally, the staff is. I have staff that's my AI
Oh, here we go.
logging in from the outside and things. But
I want to make this exact point, Joe, because I think it's spot on.
You better
Like,
you got to read it because
There's
can't
people
hear
here,
the
yeah, totally shocked.
So
when I
on
moderated
the
that.
recording,
Yeah.
so comment from Joe Way. I was totally shocked when I moderated the HETMA Lunch and Learn on networked AV, and still just under half the attendees said they never want their systems on the network. They still want.
Let's get a
standalone
show of
systems.
hands here right now of people who have said, "I don't want that shit on the nine." Everybody here, raise your hand if that represents more of your scenario.
What was
I
the
know,
question?
I know who you are. We want your stuff
Depends
isolated
on
from
the
the other
crowd.
stuff in the network.
I
Yeah,
want my
depends on the
stuff on
crowd.
the
I
network.
don't. No, I want it available, but sometimes I have to isolate it because the network isn't mature enough to handle it, and hence the cost problem.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's-
but
yeah.
but so do you want it there? If it can do it, do you want it there? Yes or no?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, you should want it there, but my God, like.
But
the
you out of
reality
fear don't do
that-
it.
No, it's the reality of how much work it is, and what are you trying to do?
Larry, talk about your
man,
scenario.
I'm 40. How many more years do I have? Right? Like, am I going to see the ROI of all the pain and blood and
We
sweat
still got to
and
get.
tears?
Yeah, I think we still got to get through that. But Larry, you have an island scenario.
I have a zero trust scenario, and it came down because we had a distributed network. We had a distributed IT issue, and part of that was distributed network switches. We had network switches in our classroom stations, which I'm sure most of us do here on the call.
Where they belong.
Yeah, but back when we did that, I had the ability to put things on the network because I had the AV VLAN that we could all get to. It still wasn't exposed to the outside world, so that doesn't solve this problem at all. But at least
Could it ever get to the outside world if it was gatewayed correctly, though?
mean, it can.
Maybe, but that was a
Talking about
conversation.
NatPat, we're talking
That's
about
more
other stuff.
work.
Yeah,
That's
I
we're
got you.
that
still
work problem.
talking
Yeah.
value proposition, and I'm not sure I see
Exactly.
it yet.
Okay.
But when we took those out, now I have to be pretty deliberate with what goes on my network and what doesn't, because as Justin
As you
was saying,
should.
there's a cost to that now.
But okay, so that kind of being said, we have these. We did the exercise prior to the show to talk about, how many devices you currently kind of have in your piece of the pie for things you're managing, and we did some counts because I want to kind of bring this back to the larger cloud management conversation we had, because clearly there's some network stuff we have to figure out to be able to take advantage of these things in the correct way. But let's pretend we're marching towards the transformational model where we want to have all our things online at the ready. I will go as far as to say is VLANs are not going to impede us in that. We're not going to talk about domains of your device.
Maybe they aren't VLANs, but they're just properly mapped.
They're properly mapped. Things can communicate. And so right now, as it stands today, we're right about like 6,500 or so of things we have across all of our classrooms. And where I'm going to go with this is going to be the pricing exercise, because I think that's really important, because I think manufacturers have this completely fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
Yeah, and I think, because this is going to segue in, I mean, right now, just my rough guess of what's online, what's available, what's ready to go, I'm between 2,500 and 3,000. Right, somewhere in there that's ready to go. Like tomorrow, if I could find a service that could do it, and I got the proper outbound pipe, I could do it tomorrow. This is what's already enterprise ready.
Do you have the financial backing and resources to do it tomorrow?
Well,
we haven't got that far yet. Yeah,
we're gonna get to that
Okay.
point. I'm saying like in this scenario, we said, okay, this company comes in and they say we've got it, and I'm like, good, let's do it.
yeah.
I have probably 2,500 devices I could transfer tomorrow with another whole bunch in the background that I have to do some work on.
Larry, what's your count? Where are you at roughly?
I mean, roughly, if I'm talking about anything with a network port that I might want to put on the network,
We want to see it. I want the data.
Yeah.
I want all of it. I want all the
and
data.
departmental spaces in spaces I actually manage, I would be over 6,000.
Okay. That's a good healthy number. Chris, what do you got
It's close to 4,000.
with them? Justin,
I mean, 6,501.
blow us out of the water, Justin. Surprise us.
Well, I have way more. I'm like, boy, mine's really conservative. But I went with the approach of I could do it tomorrow if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Not
I get
total.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
Are
total.
we talking like classrooms? Or are we just talking?
Your
Yes.
spaces.
If your group
Anything
that you
you wanna
represent
see.
wanted to have full insight and AI, everything, and all
For
the
the
stuff, to
AV
all your
stuff
stuff
that
for
we
AV,
support.
how many things are we talking to?
And not including the business school
Yeah, you don't support that.
Yeah, you don't support that.
or the stadium
That is true.
Yet.
or that.
But what if their systems were aligned and pointed at the cloud in which you could?
Still wouldn't do it.
I mean, you're looking at
wouldn't at that point? I'm just not putting them in there.
Yeah.
They don't even get a network.
so if we have
Just throw,
8
any
to
number.
900 rooms,
Okay.
and we have 5 to 10 devices per room,
Okay.
so somewhere
You're in there.
between
You're up there.
1 and 50,000.
It's quite a
Where did you
range.
learn
But,
to math,
okay.
sir?
Okay.
Is that about right? Is that accurate? Is that
You
math
tell
out?
us.
I think you're pretty close in there somewhere.
You're
They're all
definitely
playing
in
order
the
of
range.
magnitude, but yeah.
Yes. I think
One of
that-
one of the integers will be correct. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
So Justin also has about 6,000 to 8,000.
roughly. Okay. So
Yeah.
I think we're all about the same.
okay. So just the fact
Except
we
me,
did this
I'm
exercise of like getting all the things, and Justin, you brought it up like, oh well, could you do it in a financially thing? This starts to talk about the value I want to see in the service. Right? When I have these conversations, I want to know what of my island of 6,800 things out there, I want to know where it's at, what it's doing, is it online, offline, how many tickets it's created, all that stuff, but also when it's going to die and what that means to my budget next year.
But you also kind of back in the, let's rewind a little bit. Let's really focus in on the ask here, because I remember somebody saying, I think it was you, Mark, I can't see the sync on that input.
That was me.
That was
Okay.
Chris. Yeah.
So are we looking for that level of detail from any manufacturer?
Yes.
If I'm paying
Yes.
for it,
There
yes.
is. You know how much we're asking one manufacturer to
aha.
do?
It's already
Well, here's
there.
the thing.
The
Here's the- it's
module
already
already
there.
contains that.
How many of these different manufacturers? My QSys talks to my
Yeah.
Visionary. My Crestron talks to my Biamp.
Exactly.
They already have communication between these devices. A lot of them already over the frickin' network. So the ability.
But I don't
is
have Kramer. I don't have Q. I have this Kramer thing here with this other thing here with this other
Doesn't
thing
matter.
here and
matter.
this
And
other
it's
thing
still
here.
the API. You can get that info.
Yeah.
the API,
That's a
the
lot
module, the
of
plugin.
work.
Correct. But the bones of it are already there.
So
it's
why
like
are we asking these people to do it cheaper than what they're already doing, which they can't even do that far?
I don't
That's
look
the
at it
point.
as this is a
It's
problem
that-
for your programmer. This is not a problem for your programmer. Take
See
that
what
off
I'm
the table.
saying?
That's not what this
There's
is.
That's a big gap.
And so to me, I think understanding like I want to have full capability. I think I want to see these things, at least speak to it in a roadmap.
For
But
any device from any manufacturer.
sure, it's a wildly
Yes.
important goal. Let's go that. We'll put it down there.
Justin, I mean, I know that sounds like it's a big lift, but if these companies want to be a player in this, in
Yes.
that
But
market,
we want it
that's-
cheaper than the price
well,
they already gave
cost
us.
aside, if someone's going to come knock on my door and say, we've got the solution for you, it needs to do those things.
Right. And not until we get into this level of conversation are we going to see the value in making that change.
I don't think the economics are there.
Well, I think it's
We don't either. So there's
Well, yeah, neither do they.
Which
But I
again,
think,
None of us own it.
But that's the process of this conversation. Where is the value, right? And so to me, it is asset management where it crosses the status of ticketing and knowing the online status, so that not doing it asset management, it's forecasting. It's in the reporting to me. Understanding where my risk is at for deployment and where I'm seeing lots of problems, and being able to leverage and lean into the AI to say, oh, based on everything you have seen, these are the things we're seeing that could be problematic. Are you looking at these locations and these potentials? Because that has an economic impact. Until we can start to square that up and say, I'm going to have to spend this in my enterprise, will we ever see anything to compare this
Now,
to?
if you say asset management and forecasting in the sense where you're going to get your weekly report or whatever from your global AI system, whatever, that says, this encoder in this room has dropped offline for more than an hour 4 times in the last week, there's a problem.
And we have tickets, and we've seen the problems in the classes.
Right.
This has been impacted by.
So
You now
this
can make a
needs to be
decision.
Larry,
Yes.
bring that back up. But this needs to be replaced in the next, 30 days or something. So we
Correct.
have a comment here I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
From Christopher Ross, thanks for writing in. There's little value in non-interoperable cloud monitoring that does not provide remote access to view the room, correct? And remotely take the whole room down as required and power cycle it to resolve any issues, certainly for the more complex spaces. Right, so if the first step is reboot the processor, that's not a good one.
No. We want more intelligence there.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
This must be supported across the board for design AVI through to network teams as bulletproof asset management to work in the real world. Correct.
Right. And I think that he's hinting at exactly what we were just talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces there. So the thing like, oh, there's a problem, I rebooted it. Justin, you brought this up and you were apoplectic about it. Wait, in the middle of class? I'm like, absolutely not.
We
but
can't
that's the
do
thing.
that.
Some of these systems will do that unless you really step on them if you're not careful.
You have to be intelligent about how you're deploying this now, right? And this is when we start talking about that. It's the AI piece, right? How are you training these things, and what are you doing? And so, to me,
I
that's
let AI train my AI.
and that's
Because
okay.
that widget that you just rebooted may not be the problem. Now you
It may not
disrupted
be.
even more.
You've got it to re-handshake and give you an image. Yes,
Correct.
However, what's the holistic real problem? What's going on here, Larry?
Mark, I got a question for you. Doesn't your incident management system track the issues in the space?
As they're manually put in by a human, yes.
It just seems like all this is doing is centrally collecting all the information we can already get from all these other planes of glass, which to me lessens the value of it, because all it's doing is saving me time.
Well, and that's kind of what I was saying. That's how we're using.
But shouldn't you be
that's
looking
the
for
idea.
opportunities to save you
Larry,
time?
Well,
Yeah, that's the
Depends on how much
idea.
that
Larry,
costs.
I mean, I'm going to back
Because
Mark
I
up
don't
on
want a
this.
whole staff of people looking at 17 different panes of glass. I want one thing a person looking at
Save
17
time.
panes of glass.
Yeah.
If we can save time, we could do more work and serve more students and serve more faculty. So I see the benefit of us saving time.
Yeah, I'm not saying
to
we
do
can't
more.
do this now. Like, we can certainly do this now. But if I could do this faster now, and I don't need all these different people doing it, and I don't even have to ask people to do as much ticketing, if our systems are more aware, does that same and have value?
You almost need
So this
need a
needs
separate company that you hire that comes into your university that you're
Rexcon.
closely managing that says, hey, while we're still doing all our shit over here, I need you to do this one thing for us that adds value to what we're already doing.
Isn't that the whole point of IT? Is it not to reduce all this replicated service and actually simplify so that we can communicate and make decisions faster? Isn't that it? Is that not where we are merging
I'm
up
all
into?
about duplicating services.
Yeah,
So-
seriously.
I mean, again, we won't solve that problem today, but it's when we start to think about what do we need to see in products that do this, I think we're so far away from on-off status, which everybody likes to champion that, and that's just of no value to me.
I think if nothing else, we just established the maximum value of this, because you said this is saving us time. Well, it needs to be cheaper than me hiring a full-time staff member to do this then.
But yes,
But
I think
the
that's
price
just don't
that's the
work.
response. That's the Schrodinger's cat thing. It's how you want to look at this. It's going to look different ways. The response and mechanism to fixing an incident is one piece. That's not the holistic thing. To me, is understanding how fluid we are now moving forward in budget cycles and understanding forecasting, being able to be more responsive.
budget cycles?
Yes, I know this sounds nerdy as shit. Let me get my bean counter hat on. But being able to articulate, yes, we wanted to do based on our tenure these spaces. However, due to the data, it looks like we're going to have to move some funds over here to address these issues based on this data that we're seeing. And being able to be more responsive and responsible so that we're not having to do these big whole giant group forecasts and like let this tool start to lift some of that off. But very few of them are actually communicating that that's what their vision is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sure all of us are doing that now if we see
You
the
are.
trends that we're spending a lot of times dealing with this particular room.
All the anecdotal that
Yeah.
sometimes
think
we
it-
capture, sometimes we don't. And
I think we
But
want
yeah.
to do this. I think the approach is, hey, if you're going to do it right and have all that leverage. The product doesn't really exist today, but my God, just the thought of going through something like that is exhausting.
Well, I will tease
Because
more of
if
that
you
out as
really
we
do
go-
it
as we go
right,
through it.
to do it right, the security piece, every design on your campus, everything you add to that enterprise network has to comply to a certain set of standards.
And the technology debt you're adding.
Yeah, you're going to have
That's
technology
a
debt,
lot.
but you're
That's
going to be
a
having
lot.
technology debt one way or the other. You're going to have something,
Yeah.
but I'm not saying go buy all the stuff, do this right now, tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying.
I was doing it
I'm
while we
saying,
were talking.
as you're looking at options moving forward, is this at least one of the facets in which you view how you purchase product, how you deploy your service, how you roll up into the larger narrative of what your enterprise is trying to do? And look at tools like this. And we haven't even gotten to the cost exercise yet of kind of how misaligned that is.
yeah,
think
and
if you
I think we all agree that yes, we would love to have something that does this, and we have these companies that come and say, well, we're close. You're just going to require some work, and they're like, okay, well, how much are we talking here?
Well, let's talk about that really quick here. I've seen prices all over the board from, and I think that the flying ointment here is they want to do it price per endpoint.
Yep.
Which
Not
is
rooms.
No.
Not room.
Some of them will go to a room-based scenario.
Some will do room or central control processor, depending on how you have that deployed.
And so
But yes.
when I did my rough math from a few of the leading manufacturers,
Yeah.
we did the back of the napkin, we're talking 80,000 to 100,000 plus per year to have this.
And how many people can you hire for, to Larry's point, for that per year? I'm just
For that, probably
saying.
one, but still.
And that's a big
Kentucky.
Oh, we can
is-
hire like
Big
10.
pill to
We got
swallow.
10 people.
right. And so I
Well,
don't
maybe
Three
think
or four? Come on.
Mark, to that point, I'm not
Yeah.
to blow past it.
yeah.
50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 a year per year, every
year.
And here's
Forever.
the thing, forever. And what that really doesn't align with is how we're funded and how we operate, because Larry, you brought it up before, the central spaces versus departmental spaces. Yes, I could lump that in for, say 2 or 3 years as part of a departmental cost to say you owe me X number of dollars, but that starts to become untenable to manage those licenses, to manage how that's billed,
overhead.
to manage the overhead of that, just the management of it, and the fact that on my campus anyway, it's something like 16%, I think, of the spaces are general pool, and the rest are departmental. So the vast majority are departmental, and they look askance at me when we're charging what we are for equipment. Like, why is I could go to Costco, and so to say that there's going to be a $14, $15 per device per fee or per year
Right.
forever.
I think we did the
That's-
exercise with my rep was on campus. I said it really quick based on numbers they threw out. You're almost $9,000 a month. I said, would you pay that for your enterprise? And he said, no. I'm like, well, then why the hell are you asking me to do that? And the conversation stalled. And so I think they're trying to get their arms around it too. And I don't think they have it yet. And so I don't
They
think
have
it's a
to
price.
recoup engineering costs to keep
Sure.
building this.
No,
somehow,
they
right?
have to pass profit on to their investors. That's
Or
what they have to
They
do.
don't have investors.
There you
because
go.
they're-
And so at the end of the day, how do we value this? And so I'm curious, like when we get to that larger thing, what would it be? I don't know the answer. I'm trying to triangulate that and put it into perspective as what is that value when we get to that full transformational stack? What would that mean to the teaching and learning? What would that mean to the support? And is $100,000 a drop in the bucket? I don't know, but I can't get my arms around it.
To
right
Larry's
now.
point, and Mark, you're kind of getting there too. That's a huge fee. So let's just say we had we can do $100,000. If I'm going to spend $100,000, I'm going to go hire somebody whose job it will be to manage all that stuff. And then when they're not doing that, because it's not a 40-hour-a-week job,
can do
once
installs.
they can do other things.
Maybe.
Asset management.
They can go count those serial numbers. So
Right. And so, but it's an interesting conversation, and I don't know if many of the manufacturers are offering this. And we had a list of different versions that are doing. We're not going to bore you with rattling that entire thing off.
It's more than one.
It's
that
more
you
than
saw in an
one.
article.
Yeah.
on our list right now, 1, 2, 3,
Are we
4, 5,
are we
6,
asking
7,
too
8,
much?
9. Yeah.
I think we're asking too much.
No,
for-
we
for
are
how much
setting.
it costs.
I want to at least set the cone of uncertainty. Like, if you're going to do this, please go down this path and look at these problems and offer solutions that address these. Get out of the stuff management. Yes, the stuff management is thing, but get above the boxes. It's not about the boxes. It's about the story.
I know we're asking manufacturers to do that. I'm saying they're going to say, yeah, we can do that, but it's going to cost even more based upon engineering.
I don't even think they can do it yet.
You see, that's my point is,
well, and when they're going to, when they come to pitch that, like I said, they come knocking on your door, do a little bit of legwork, because the last thing I need to hear is oh, we can do asset management, which I don't need. We can do your inventory. I don't care. But usually it's like, oh, we can talk to your ticketing system. Well, not yours. We can import all your stuff. Well, not those devices. We can. Oh, yeah, not on your network. I'm like, well, what are you selling me here?
Because we want all of it. If you're unless you're willing to sit down and say, yes, we're going to do all of it, I don't want to talk to you.
Now let me float this question to the group then, from a cost perspective. If there was a modest cost of these, $8, $10, $12, $15, $20, whatever it is, but it's per system, per control processor, per room, per space, however we want to lump those things together.
We are seeing that. You're seeing ones doing like the edge aggregation piece, and we're going to charge you for that edge piece and not necessarily the whole.
But you're getting HDMI sync on that product.
We don't know.
Care. Like it's the whole.
That's my point. That we're
said,
asking for too much.
What
we're asking
Chris
for
said
too much.
with the budgeting model, like
Justin,
I
I can
need
get
the
HDMI
enterprise
sync.
license.
I can get HDMI sync through Fusion now. Why can't I get that
on
the cloud
Crestron
thing?
products?
Well, but look,
On
there
Crestron products. That's it.
we have to understand
Get
that
out of the
there's
layer
going
one problem. Yeah,
there's going to be things that
it's a
we have to
problem.
do to enact the things that we actually want to see. We all kind of get that, but once we set it up, we want it to be able to hit this. We want it to be able to make some of these adjustments and track some of these things. That's why I've quit using some of the ones I've had, is because they think I need to. Seriously, Extron, why are we still tracking lamp hours?
Lamp hours!
Like, that's the only thing I can effing track in GVE. Give me a break. But
Jamie,
that's kind of
that line is orange. You got to get a lamp prepped and ready.
But
it's
some
the
of these,
example that matters.
and then it's also the oh yeah, by the way, we're going to open this up to everything. We want to be able to reach your stuff from the cloud. I just tried to set up a piece of equipment today that was their new cloud platform, and one is special certificates put on my laptop, which guess what? Not allowed to do. So it's just kind of like, what a waste.
Yeah, and so it's really interesting because I think all these points are super valid. And then, Chris, I think you and I, maybe some other folks, you're starting to see other folks looking at is this part of like the larger building management and other systems, cloud IoT of
AI
stuff
could
as well.
Turn on the air conditioning in the room because
Right.
it's
And so this is now
warm.
where do we sit in the larger data ecosystem of our enterprise at large? And are we willing to get uncomfortable and say maybe our island is just merged and is part of an archipelago of islands?
But
That's
I think
a
that
better thought.
I'd be okay
that
with
may
that.
be what breaks it here.
That's what's going to scale economically for a price standpoint. Like, oh, you're talking about every device on campus now
To include building
facilities and
systems,
IT
facilities,
and-
all of it, yes.
Yeah,
Now-
the building
now you
system
have
ones, they all have
more-
the standards, right?
You have more budgeting there and more budget power to do something like that.
But does that mean now we need an open standard that plays well with a lot of these data? So now it's a data problem. Yeah. It's a data alignment thing, right? And so, to me, it's. Are you looking at things like that? Like to me,
Can we just call
look at them that
QSIS
way.
about that?
We
Because
could get
they were
Dave on
bought
and have a
by
conversation. But
somebody that
maybe-
might.
Maybe our prediction will come true on that one, and 2 years from now, people are going to be eating crow, but
right. So
at $8 a month.
stay
per device.
tuned. Yeah, I don't value it as I don't value it at all at the device level. To me, I don't think that pricing
Individual
structure
control
works.
of window shades.
No, I would rather say price it per the capability you want the thing to do. Like give me with this price point you get this level of AI, or this price point you get this, but it doesn't matter the stuff you have.
How
Let
many
me pay for the
endpoints?
service. Don't do it based on
Oh,
the
and
That
free
would be a
advice for-
better approach to pricing.
Free advice for all the manufacturers. Stop with the little appliance widgets. You need a VM that I can land in my data center. It has
Yes.
to meet all the same security requirements and all that.
Yep.
Because if we get one that does meet the needs or meet our needs, we pass all the security tests, and it can be managed by my data center team you have solved a huge number of potential issues. Now, there's still a bunch of other ones to do, but that is a massive hurdle to get over. So stop with the little boxes, most of which are little Linux appliances running on a Raspberry Pi anyway, and give me that as a VM solution, and just free advice out there.
And then understand and look at the EDUCAUSE higher education piece. Look at the HECFAT documents that exist in there, because that's going to speak to cloud and security and a lot of that stuff as organizations looking at. Become well versed in that, because when we go to our leadership and we said, hey, we found this new wishes and promises everything it does under the cloud universe, they're going to say, let me see the HECFAT. And if you don't know what that means and you can't speak to any of that stuff, you're going to be at a disadvantage. It is being used to weed out the ones that are not ready for prime time. So you use that resource. Pro tip for everybody out there that's working on this kind of solution.
Yeah, HECFAT is the higher education
Vendor Assessment Toolkit.
What's the C?
There. Oh,
Higher education colleges? Oh, let me look it up. I put a link.
It's the Higher Education Community Vendor Assessment Toolkit.
That's the one.
We don't even know what it means.
It's on EDUCAUSE. It's
It's
an
an EDUCAUSE document on how to. This is the sort of security things, security postures
when
you
you're
need to be aware of.
security posturing when you're dealing with cloud services.
Link
It
is in the
makes
show
a
notes.
it makes a huge difference getting things through your CISOs and things. It makes a
Exactly.
big difference.
When I share it with
what's
people,
a-
they're like,
what's a
"What is
CISO?"
that?" So every one of the manufacturers is guilty of saying, "What is that?" So that shows you the level of maturity we're dealing with here. So, cool.
So yes, I think we'd all say we like this as a concept. We would all very much like the capabilities that these things could possibly bring to us. There's some security and general information, data storage, data governance things to be aware of, as well as some massive, let's say, financial challenges.
Value proposition.
Yes. So
And
that
resource,
said,
too.
could I interest you guys in the perfect all-in-one single pane of glass solution that can talk to all your devices, see all your schedules, and do all that stuff in one shot? Because if so,
I will pay per device if you have it. Let's go.
let's do this one.
Are you tired of juggling between multiple screens and consoles just to get a grasp of your digital empire and keep an eye on all your AV devices? Introducing the game changer you've been waiting for, the All-in-One Console by Independent Amalgamated. A single pane of glass that watches over all your platforms, collating reports and usage details with the precision of a digital maestro. But here's the kicker. It's not some fancy AI doing the heavy lifting. This is AL. That's right, a man named Al.
That's right, folks. I'm Al, your digital sidekick. I manually sift through the data, crunch those numbers, and serve you with the juiciest insights on a silver platter.
With the All-in-One Console, bid farewell to the days of drowning in a sea of screens. Al here ensures you've got everything you need right at your fingertips. Worried about compatibility issues? Fear not. Al's got your back, seamlessly integrating with all your existing platforms.
Whether it's device uptime, routed signals, network traffic, or meeting schedules, I've got it covered.
So why waste time wrestling with multiple consoles when you can have the simplicity and efficiency of the All-in-One Console? Upgrade your digital game today. Visit our website now and let Al be your digital guru. Independent Amalgamated's All-in-One Console. Simplifying complexity, Al at once.
That's what I've been using, just the All-in-One. It's great.
I'll tell you what, I pay that guy $20,000 a year. He takes care of everything.
I was going to say, can we just get him to? It
Kansas City
sounds like
person.
he's. It's the stupidest commercial.
Anyway.
All right. So for our final topic today, speaking of cloud-hosted nonsense, Marc, how are things going with your
quick update.
MTR project du jour thing?
You're giving away the whole piece of this, Chris. So,
With your IT reimagining hoteling
Hey.
nonsense.
yes.
They have AI-enabled room tracking for
You're
the
not
low,
wrong.
low price.
But that you're burying the whole story here a little bit. So I wanted to do a quick update because we promised you we would kind of update this project, and I wanted to do a quick share because I think we went on and on and on about trying to visualize what in the hell this space actually looks like. And I got a really nasty version of a floor plan that I'm going to share out with some folks here if I can actually find a way to share it again.
Button that says share.
Yeah, but I have 15,000 screens open. I got to find which one to actually share.
Could you use the Allen one to help?
I
you
could
with that?
actually use that Allen one. It would be lovely if I could do it. I mean, that's not what we do. But the projects that we talked about a couple weeks ago, how long ago was that now, Chris? It was
4 weeks, I think. It was last month. So
apparently it does not want me to do a tab. So let me go to one of these things. No, my browser's no longer going to let me do. I can only do Brave tabs now. So bummer. Okay, so what was the whole space?
this
we talked
is a
about
PDF, right?
Nah, it was, yeah, it kind of was, but whatever. It's not now.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
You
Send me the
converted it.
link and I'll share it. Jeez.
Oh, well. But I wanted to do a quick walkthrough kind of what it was. The large kind of active meeting war room of sorts was one of the takeaway spaces with an adjacent wall that can be opened into a smaller space that could make an even larger active space for meetings and events. A lot of hoteling spaces, a mix of 5 or 6 small collaboration suites and 2 medium-large collaboration conference rooms, and then some open office area and some other closed office areas. And how do we kind of take that? It started as we wanted to do a war room, and as we walked through the whole thing, it kind of distilled and became much larger and much more than just that. And one of the pieces that played into it is that a lot of the folks that are going to be working in this area are not necessarily university specific folks. They may be contractors. They may not have logins. They may not be able to actually sit and have access to an installed PC. So what did that mean? And then the drive was we want to have a BYOD first posture in the whole space. Gross. And so as we distilled those things, what did it start to actually mean, right? Because it could be gross from folks. You're not wrong with that reaction, Chris. It was, as it started as, just a big giant video wall in a war room, that sounded really easy. And we felt like we could probably just do that with pick your product and throw it up there. But as we teased this out and walked through and met with the clients, it clearly was more than that. And as we kind of walked through and provided the scope, there were elements of large space, which needed a display that was 140 inches or so wide, based on the depth of the room that we needed to go in, with the adjacent space, which came in about 110 inches.
Wait, width or diagonal even?
Diagonal.
Okay.
Right.
Measures width.
No. Sorry. If I said width, I'm mistaken. So diagonal.
2 proper measurements for displays.
Yes.
You picked the wrong one.
Sorry. Come on.
I measure based on display depth.
Yes.
It's an official standard.
Yeah, but I think
No one uses it.
one of the challenges that was probably the most problematic is that not all of the people working in the space were going to be university affiliated.
Yeah.
That was
a lot of
probably
access questions.
the hardest part to square, and that are a lot of our standards for meeting spaces and we're like, well, you just log into this machine and you go.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have the ability to do that, and we weren't going to post sticky notes with logins and local files out everywhere because guess who's living right
just
next
open
door?
it
The
up,
CISO's office is right next door to this suite.
Mark, it just auto logs in. It's fine.
Yeah, it just goes. It just works. And so because of that, we had to kind of really scratch our head and say, okay, well, what would work? And that's kind of where we landed in the Teams thing. Because in the process of meeting with me, we spend our lives in Teams. Like everything we're doing is we're in Teams. And we're like, oh, really? And we had been toying around having Teams in space. So we all had worked in Teams, but then our leadership really wanted us to try to look at Teams room and what would it look like, to the point where they asked us to think about looking at it in a classroom space. And we said, well, we're not ready to look at Teams room as a product in a classroom space yet, but I will more than happily entertain feeling like what that looks like here. Right? What does that feel like, right? And so could we do it in a way that it seems like it would work, and deploy it that way? And so that became this mantra. Is like, okay, let's explore. Can we do Teams room? So we actually decided to think about, let's do Teams room as the larger spaces, but then with a mix of sound masking for a lot of the hoteling spaces and some smaller Teams rooms around there. And when we started to have the conversations and bring in our Microsoft partners and do some of the demos, people were like, yeah, that's what we want to do. That's exactly what we want to do. We don't want to plug things in. We don't want to do this, press this to start. We want to have that more seamless experience where we could just walk in, meet, share, get summaries, AI-driven summaries out there delivered to us. And they wanted to unpack and be wireless and really lean into that reporting piece of it. And so at that point in time, we didn't really see a better flavor of this. Yes, people will say, well, you could have did Zoom Room. And we know. But the business use case was in the Teams. Yes, we identified the proper candidate to try this. And so that was how we started to go about the scope. We said, okay, we're going to deliver these experiences based on a large room capable with LED wall. At the time we did an LED wall, 139 inch. So that felt good. We wanted them to have portability. So we didn't want to get into actually all the products, but they liked having this large space have the ability to be modular and be moved around. They were going to change seating arrangements. So we're like, okay, the largest space, which arguably is the most complex space, has like that multiplier of making it even worse is it needs to be able to move, right? Which is like, oh my God, I hate event spaces that are completely modular that way, but when we want to do conference. So that was the challenge of that. Most of the small meeting room spaces, we knew those were very off-the-shelf solutions. Those were very confined. They were not weird use cases at all. So they felt like they met that conference room and possibly even the Teams room solution. That'd be a good model for them. And then we also had to define kind of what does it mean to be in a hoteling space for folks that are going to be traveling with all of their own devices. So we looked at what does it mean to have infrastructure for folks to be able to sit down, plop down their laptops, have some light collaboration technology there at each of those desk locations, but be able to just move and go be in a meeting elsewhere down the hall and be able to interact with that. So that was how we started to chew on what that solution would look like. And again, totally different than like teaching learning space for us, right? And that it was going to be built around these kind of prefab walls are going to come in with the dirt wall we talked about and kind of how we're going to integrate in there. So everybody liked when we came to the approach of saying, how do we feel about carts? And people are like, we love the carts. That seems really great. We have all this flexible, movable furniture. So we started to really narrow things down to that we were going to have these mobile-based solutions. And we were literally looking at staring down like Teams rooms on carts. As weird and as queasy as that may have made us feel. And so I just wanted that was kind of some of the takeaway. We'd kind of gone down and we did bring in some other partners. We worked with Biamp as well to look at some sound masking solutions in there. And so we started to explore and put treatments together for all these different systems. We'll dig in more kind of when we revisit this next time. We'll start going into some of the parts list of how we put these things together. But as we looked at it, as the clients were kind of getting their arms around it, they really liked these flexible spaces, carts, platform that allowed them to be able to be wireless, connect easy in and out of in things that aligned really well with Teams as their workflow. So that was kind of how we started to come away with some of these conclusions. You guys can ask questions, but that was the quick update. Looking at you, Jamie, mostly.
So I don't have any at this moment, right? Okay. Some of mine are going to come in as you start to implement this plan. Like you've identified that this is a direction. This should check all the boxes, but implementation of what should check the boxes is that's where a lot of my concerns and some of my skepticism comes into play, and that's at another day, I know. But right now, like on the surface, the reason I don't have a whole lot for you is because you checked all the boxes of exactly what Teams and or Zoom room, these room systems are supposed to be for.
And don't get me wrong, this was like very outside and uncomfortable for all of our organization to come to these types of conclusions because we knew that it wasn't going to be about the stuff. Now we're talking a whole different level. And we'll dig into some of that too. It's like, what does it mean when you start to make that decision? Because it's not just the box you open up and go install. It's a whole host of other problems that are going to happen.
Yeah. And I think I would have had a lot different opinions at this point if you said, well, we're going to have 17 displays and it is a classroom and you got to have these. And you're like, no, you've pared it down to what is necessary for the client and the client's needs. Now the broader picture is, can this be migrated into more of a classroom space? Again, questions for another day. But right now I'm like, okay, all right, so I'll go with you this far on your journey. I'll go down this far on the journey and say this might actually work. Now we'll
crazy
see if
and
it
weird,
does.
and we'll see if it ends up being what we all think it does. But it was it's weird, right? The whole thing, if I can maybe I can get this to actually open the way I want it to do and I can share it in the way it does. But it doesn't from a surface look much different than like a stereotypical kind of office suite of spaces, right? And so it's not classrooms and none of that stuff. So we're not going to treat it the same way, but some of the constraints we talked about in the last episodes, like low ceilings and things like that. So they're not good candidates for projection in the venues. And so we knew we were going to kind of be in this flexible front, and then we just kind of scratched our heads. So what tool makes sense? What kit makes sense for this? And so we kind of uncomfortably tiptoed down as an option, and we're like, are we crazy enough to try this? And maybe we are. So next time update, we'll dive in specifically a little bit more about what the stuff is we ended up going with. And then I will do my best, and I will promise to give you more of a layout, and then we'll do a room by room walkthrough of kind of what those treatments ended up having. And we'll even get into like the BOM on each one of those.
So you're gonna be doing this from a computer that actually works, so you can share these things.
My browser has locked me out of being able to share anything other than just tabs for some stupid reason right now. But I can't get it to open that document in a tab right now. So yes, thank you. Whatever I'm running today, which is the Brave browser, brought to you by Brave.
Funny, I'm using that myself, and it works fine. So.
Well, once we go, it's whatever your settings are is what you get. You can't change it on the fly. Like, you're in this. I'd have to drop out of here, change the setting, and then come back and rejoin, which I'm not going to do for you, Chris. For everybody else, I would, but not you.
Yeah. I don't want to see these spaces anyway.
No, you lost me long ago. So
you lost me at JSB.
That's okay. So
all right.
Anywho.
Okay, well, yeah, interested to see how that goes, because I mean, you're right, and what Jamie said there is correct. You know that this is not a typical space. This is not a classroom or conference room that we deal with. This has some unique qualifications, some unique situations around it. So why, try something else.
Are you guys doing sound masking a lot on your schools?
I found instead of sound masking, what I do is I hire a student to stand there and go shh, or I just turn up the HVAC really loud through my building management system.
Are you dealing with like docks for people to put their laptops in and go and interfacing and all that
gross.
stuff? Right? So
A little bit.
Yes,
a little bit.
but ugh.
that's what makes all this really unnerving, and why it's different than the normal day-to-day stuff.
USB-C. It works everywhere.
Sure does.
You're right on that one.
Anyway, so we'll get into a little more next update on that. We just wanted to
Come
give you guys
over.
a
I'll show you where we can put USB.
quick update on how we started to think about that space and how we thought we were crazy right away. And so,
and you've
maybe
proven
we are.
yourselves to be correct. Right? No?
Yes.
Maybe. We'll see. Well, you're still early days in this project.
At this stage.
So how long have people actually been in there? Because you still need a runway for actual use cases, right?
9 months now. We've been
Okay,
running.
good.
Up and running 9 months. We'll share some of the speed bumps along the way, though, too.
Yeah,
I promise.
'cause I was going to say that's what's going to really inform is this is version 1. What did we learn? So
Exactly. Cool.
that's the stuff I want to hear.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Go get your roses.
And yes,
From the
Larry
gas
did leave
station.
early to
Yeah,
get
He had to
his
leave.
gas station roses.
Gas station roses. Yeah, he jetted out.
Yeah.
Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV SuperFriends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.